Major Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you well know, there are 4 Americans in Iran, 3 held on trumped-up charges, according to your administration, and 1 whereabouts unknown. Can you tell the country, sir, why you are content with all the fanfare around this deal to leave the conscience of this nation and the strength of this nation unaccounted for in relation to these 4 Americans? And last week, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said under no circumstances should there be any relief for Iran in terms of ballistic missiles or conventional weapons. It is perceived that that was a last-minute capitulation in these negotiations. Many in the Pentagon feel you've left the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff hung out to dry. Could you comment?
My new hero, Major Garrett, who I've always liked for the most part, with the great question, and we're going to have a lot more on the those commenting on that question, saying, oh, how dare he ask that. But first of all, I put the T-shirt back on, the Lauryn Hill T-shirt. You could go to the curestartsnow.org and help Lauren, who should have been the rightful winner of the Arthur Ashe Courage Award. She passed away at 19 of cancer, and help out her cause, the curestartsnow.org. Here's Obama's response.
I got to give you credit, Major, for how you craft those questions. The notion that I'm content as I celebrate with American citizens languishing in Iranian jails, Major, that's nonsense, and you should know better. I've met with the families of some of those folks. Nobody's content. And our diplomats and our teams are working diligently to try to get them out.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Now, here's his reasoning as to why he couldn't bring them up in the negotiations.
If the question is why we did not tie the negotiations to their release, think about the logic that that creates. Suddenly, Iran realizes, you know what, maybe we can get additional concessions out of the Americans by holding these individuals. Makes it much more difficult for us to walk away if Iran somehow thinks that a nuclear deal is dependent in some fashion on the nuclear deal.
Anybody have any idea what he's talking about? Because I don't. All he had to do is when he sat down with them at the beginning of the talks, you say, before we start this, you release the 4 Americans, or there's nothing. That would have been the way to do it. Unbelievable. More concessions. How many concessions did you give them? Now here is Don Lemon and Gloria Borger reacting to all this.
Basically what he was saying was, man, look here, are you out of your damn mind? That's exactly what the tone, that's exactly where I thought he was going, like, are you crazy
right.
Because to put the question in that form.
The question about the fate of 4 Americans is a completely legitimate question.
Right.
When you look at the language and the way it was loaded in this question.
Oh, it was a loaded question. Can Barack Obama, the smartest man in the world, handle it? Now here is Major Garrett explaining why he asked the question.
Politicians, especially those elected president of the United States, are very adept at creating straw men, taking something that they feel rhetorically works to their advantage and using it. That's exactly what the president did. My question did not suggest he was content with the captivity of those 4 Americans. My question was about the contentment or the satisfaction or the realization that it was necessary within the context of this deal to leave them unaccounted for. That was the essence of the question. Clearly it struck a nerve. That was my intention. Was it provocative? Yes. Was it intended to be as such? Absolutely.
Good for you. Good for you. Now back to CNN, where Dana bashes Major Garrett.
You've been a White House reporter. I've been a White House reporter. You know what it's like to stand up and ask the president a question, and you do want to be tough, but there's a fine line, especially maybe I'm old school, standing in the East Room, a fine line between asking a tough question and maybe crossing that line a little bit and being disrespectful. So I think that happened there.
Yeah, oh, he was disrespectful. He crossed the line. Tisk, tisk, tisk. He exposed President Obama for who he is and who he isn't. See you later.